Hello, everyone, and welcome back to PopCultX, your ultimate podcast destination for everything pop culture. I'm Danny, one of your co-hosts here, and this is episode 151, a milestone that heralds the next evolution of our show. So, as you know, for our first 150 episodes, it was always Gabe and I, and sometimes joined by special guests, sharing our Gen X perspectives on the latest in movies, TV, music, and more. Now, while that dynamic isn't going anywhere, we're excited to announce that we'll be introducing additional co-hosts into the mix. These new voices will bring their own unique insights and hot takes on the topic du jour, adding even more depth and diversity to our discussions. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let the other gentlemen on the call introduce themselves. That way, if you're just listening to this on the audio portion, you'll get to recognize their voices. So let's go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, well, I'm back once again. My name is Gabriel. I'm the co-host of PopCultX, and I'm back again to talk about all things pop culture.
Awesome. My name is Joseph Colon. I'm also known as Gen X, and these gentlemen, I guess they're a glutton for punishment. I don't know. I'm hoping that they enjoy my not just my boyish good looks, but also my papi chulo-ness. So I am I am Gen X. I go by Gen as well. I am all things comics, but I'm also into pop culture, as these gentlemen invited me in, and so I'm going to go all out. So I promise you to have a great time with these guys.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, before we get into our topic of the day, I want to just talk about something that so I watched Quiet Place Day 1 this past weekend. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. But the question isn't so much about the movie itself. The question I have for you guys is more about, what would you rather have in an apocalyptic event? Would you rather, A, be one of the first ones to go in the initial wave of an invasion, a plague, whatever, and that way you don't have to worry about, hiding or anything like that, or being quiet? Or would you want to be one of the survivors that kind of struggles to regrow society and eke out a living? I know what I would want, but I want to hear from, let's say, Jen, you first.
All right. So I would like to think that I'd last pretty much to the end and see the promised land and then not make it. You know what I mean? So kind of like Moses, I guess.
Get all the way there.
Just lead everybody else through and figure it out. So I think I would be the one, at least to test the waters and see what happens, how far I can get without any treachery or anyone trying to stab me in the back or a zombie coming to bite me in my neck. So that's what I would do. I would try to see how far I can get it.
Okay.
Get through. Yeah.
So I would not want to die. First of all, I'd want to survive whatever apocalyptic event happened. But I would hope that I would be maybe the only handful of people that would be left over. And I would fully do like Night of the Comet. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but I would go on a shopping spree. I'd have a Lamborghini. I would be eating all my favorite food if there's any food left. I would be at the mall, like having Rolexes on my arm, having, whatever I want. Basically, it'd be like a kid in a candy store, and worry about populating the world later. But I would just have a really good time and just have fun. I mean, hopefully there wouldn't be any zombie mutants or aliens. If there were, I would go to the gun store or go to, wherever I could find a weapon and let all my aggression out on them, because I wouldn't feel bad because they would be zombies or aliens. I would have a good time. Hopefully. I mean, I wouldn't want to suffer, but I would look at it in that perspective.
Fair enough. So you'd be more like Woody Harrelson in Zombieland.
Right.
Okay.
I love how he said repopulate the earth. Like that was his first thing.
I mean, if you have to worry about that, I guess that would be on my list of like things to do. But
things to do, yeah, it's on the checklist. You got that checklist, that book with your checklist. Repopulate 3 times. People would be like, "What's wrong with this dude?" Nothing, absolutely nothing.
What's your choice be, Danny?
I initially thought, I'd want to be one of the first ones to go and be like, just like, as I'm going down, just, haha, suckers, you get to struggle with all this that's going to happen next, and I don't have to worry about it. But, giving it more thought, I'll be like, I never liked crowds to begin with. So this would be my perfect time to thrive because there will no longer be really many crowds, hopefully. Although I think the human interaction element of many apocalyptic tales is, it's like man versus beast versus man, whatever. And that man versus man portion is always what makes me mad because that's what turned me off on like from the Walking Dead series is like the whole man versus man. I was like, you know what? I just want to see them fight zombies.
Yeah.
So I think I would want to survive, but become a hermit up in the mountain somewhere or on an island. Because the quiet place, the monsters there, they can't swim. So I think just find me an island, kick back, some coconuts, just drinking, kind of like Castaway, and I think I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to say about the current like climate in the US that like we would want to be alone and and just like kind of be a lone survivor in the world.
Yeah.
Just because I think that I can do with a little bit less humanity for a hot minute and be out either in the wilderness or in the city, but like not have a lot of people around for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at like the movies like I Am Legend, right, where he's the lone survivor and he's just, but he has it all planned out. He doesn't have to worry about, but he's also reaching out for other people, for any other survivors. So I guess I could kind of deal with that in a way, as long as it's me alone with the dog.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you want your own cabin, but you wouldn't mind people nearby, but not too close.
I guess, yeah, I could deal with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sounds like Puerto Rico's the best place to do that.
It's an island. Yeah, there you go. That's funny. Well, before we get into our topic as well, was there any other sort of movies or anything that you guys watched over this past week that maybe you want to talk about? Or you know what? How about I know something I watched that we could talk about was the Olympics. That's what I've been watching a lot of, and especially the women's gymnastics. I watched that and I thought that was just fantastic to watch Simone Biles come back and find her groove again, I guess. Any thoughts on that?
Good for her. I don't really know what to say because I haven't been watching the Olympics.
Okay, yeah, good for her. Way to go.
I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I support America, like USA all the way, all of that, but I'm not a big fan of watching sports, so I haven't been watching it. If they had more performers, like maybe in like halftime, kind of throughout the Olympics, maybe I would watch. I did watch opening ceremonies. I thought it was cool. Having a Lady Gaga and like I forgot the name of the heavy metal band that played, but I thought that was
awesome.
cool. If they had more of that, maybe I'd be more inclined to watch. But unfortunately, I haven't been watching it, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I will tell you, it's 24/7 in my household. It doesn't matter if it's badminton or whatever event it's not popular to me, but I have been watching Simone Biles, some of the gymnastic stuff, definitely track and field. I have been. The cool thing, one of the cool things I also think is, I don't know if the last Olympics looked like this, but there's so many more celebrities in the stands than I anticipated. Yeah. Like there are a ton of people there, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it is Simone Biles. Maybe it is like the track and field with Sha'Carri Richardson. Yeah. So I don't know. It seems pretty exciting. Yeah. It just makes me depressed because then I realize that I can't do any of that stuff. So I used to be able to. I could run without wheezing at all. So, coming up the stairs, I don't know if that's a track and field event. I don't know. It's just, it's debilitating and saddening.
I always like when they talk about an athlete about like being super old and it being their last Olympics and, that they're not going to be able to perform anymore, that they're getting in their old age. And then they say their age and they're like 28.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow. That's really old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or somebody who has like kidney disease. I think was it Jordan Childs? No, it wasn't Jordan Childs.
Simu Lee.
Yeah, Suni Lee. Yeah, she had kidney disease and she's up there like killing it, and I'm sitting there at home with no disease, and I'm not killing it.
Killing.
So,
Yeah, I hear you. And I think the main person who's been more involved in the Olympics than I ever thought he would be is Snoop Dogg. He's like
mm,
everywhere in there, and it's funny and it's cool that he has embraced it, and people have embraced him as like, I don't want to say the mascot, but they've embraced him as like this, figure to celebrate with. So I think that was really cool. I read somewhere that Snoop Dogg has finished, if you think of it as like a video game, he's finished all the main quest of his life. Now he's doing all the side quests. So I thought that was pretty accurate description of what he's doing nowadays.
Yeah, he definitely has an interesting life and is going in areas that I would not expect to see Snoop Dogg hanging out with who was it, Martha Stewart at the
Mhm.
yep.
Olympics. Like that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Eating escargot for the first time, it's like, wow.
Good for him.
Yeah. And I guess this is a good segue into our topic of the day, which we'll talk about, which is the real in reality TV. And since we're talking about sports, let me ask you this. Do you consider sports to be a reality TV?
If you remember Nancy Kerrigan, that was pretty much reality TV in current
Yeah.
state with the
Yeah.
ice skating. I mean, that's Winter Olympics, but still Olympics nonetheless. I remember that was a hot debacle, and
Yeah.
that was pretty intertwined with like goons that she hired and folks to, basically take her out. But I don't know. Is it, Gabe? What do you think? Is it?
I think there are aspects of it that have become very reality show-esque. Like whenever I do watch sports, which is not very often, when they show their little bios and like what they've overcome to get there, and that seems very reality show to me. Like every person has to have their little documentary made about them before a boxing event or before a golf tournament. Sometimes I just wish that they would just get to the event and not have to watch their like sob story about them, losing their dad and it just being their mom and all of that stuff. But that's kind of, I think, the effect of reality TV is that now people want to hear the story of the person's life before they watch them perform. You see that on like American Idol or other competition reality shows where they really bring out their life story before they come out to perform. So I think it's one aspect of reality shows that has sort of segued or impacted sports as well.
I mean, I can agree with that. I mean, you think about what like the definition of what reality TV is mainly, it's like real life situations that are unscripted, right?
Yeah.
From people who aren't professional actors. And it really has become, like you said, it's nowadays, it's modern entertainment. It's what we're going all the way back to like candid camera, going into like funny home videos and into today, like Survivor. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's go ahead and get into our topic. So, I have some questions here. I think that'd be good, you know, ice-breaking questions for reality TV. I guess the first one is, what is your favorite reality TV show of all time?
Mm.
That's really easy for me to get started because I don't know if it's my generation, but I always go back to like the granddaddy of reality shows for me is where it all started was The Real World.
Mm-hmm.
I love The Real World. I was such a big fan of like uh all of this, the original episodes, New York, LA, San Francisco. I was all about it. I auditioned to be on it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Enough to be on it. Yeah, I loved reality. I loved The Real World. I think that was and still is probably like the original episodes my favorite reality show of all time. That they sort of created and were uh they came up with like the whole premise, I think, of what modern day reality shows are like.
Yeah, they defined the genre.
Yeah, they were the blueprint, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed, Gabe. I was on the same page. My favorite season was Seattle, and I remember that whole crew, that whole group of people were a hot mess. I just remember it was there was an incident with the two roommates. One of them slapped the other one.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and I was just like, whoa, that's intense. And I think he had to leave. Somebody had to leave. Something had pressed charges. And that's when I was like, oh, that's real. Like that actually happened. Like, wow, that wasn't, Jerry Springer. There was actually something that occurred in real time for us. So yeah, I would agree. I think the real world New York, like I said, the Seattle one is one of my favorites, but going back old school is always good for anybody. Anybody who hasn't watched those, you need to go back, rewatch it on your Fire Stick or wherever and get the reruns because they're really classic episodes. And you get to see what people were wearing back in the day. My God.
That's very true. It's a good time capsule. Yep.
Do you remember the overalls with the graffiti in the front? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I just remember in New York, Heather B, who was like hip hop, straight New York, and then Julie from I think Alabama, and her trying to teach her like slang and all of like the New York, hip hop isms, and Julie just being like completely unknowing of any of that type of culture. But that's what I loved about the show was that it had representation from culture that we didn't really see before. We didn't really see a lot of people of color. We didn't see LGBT people. We didn't see a lot of those people kind of blending together and coming to quote the show, live in a house to find out what happens. But we we didn't see that a lot on television. I think that like before then, like some of the role models that I had was like Maria and Luis from Sesame Street. That was like some of the few Latinos that were on television. And then The Real World came out, and then you could see people that you're like, oh, like there's people like me that are out there that are on this show and that are going through the same things that I was going through at the same time. They were young, they were trying to discover themselves, they were kind of going out into the world for the first time from under the umbrella of their families, and that's what was really exciting about it for me. Now I've sort of branched out into other reality shows like especially competition shows like The Traders. I really love that. Amazing Race, where they introduce competition to those shows. But I still, that's what I think reality shows are really great because they bring people from a lot of different backgrounds and kind of bring them together and be on a show, which is really cool because you don't really see that on scripted television as much.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned competition because that was going to leads into my next question for you guys. Which do you prefer, competition reality shows or docu-style reality shows? And I guess, Gabe, you can't mention Big Brother because that's like a combination of both, I think. So,
Yeah.
so like for me, Project Runway is probably one of my favorite reality TV shows, just because of the whole fashion design element. Being a photographer back in the day, I really enjoyed that, and just seeing the different styles they created, and of course also, which no longer on America's Next Top Model, because that was fun to see the fashion creations that they made through photography there. How about you guys? Which one do you prefer, Jen?
I don't know. I think I would think that I'm still tried and true reality TV show traditional. The competition thing gets a little hazy. I guess they both do. Now I would say modern reality show is kind of the script is somehow intertwined with like just hip craziness, just for the sake of crazy. But I think shows like cooking shows, like Kitchen Nightmares, I used to be hooked on those 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And in my household, I think we talked about this earlier, shows like 90 Day Fiance and all those like
Married at First Sight.
Married at First Sight, or even what's the jailhouse one where people come out like
90 Days In.
Yeah, no, not that one. The one where people get engaged or married to folks that are in prison and then they come out and they have to start from scratch.
My wife enjoys those. Yeah.
I typically, I'm one of those dudes who like, I don't want to see that. And then I get pulled in and I'm like, damn it, I have to watch next week and the week after, and then the season's over. But I like, if I had to do competition shows, there was also competition shows like I'm into hip hop, so they've had shows like that where they're trying to get like the next crop of hip hop artists or artists period. I also like I started watching older folks who were big in the 90s, and then they're trying to create super groups and they intertwine them together, which is kind of cool. These older women like SWV and I forgot the other ones, excuse me, but it's too far gone. But anyway, they're supposed to create a super group, and you realize you can still be petty at like 50, 55, It's like, oh, and you're making money, but everybody wants to be like the superstar. And you're sitting there going, when's the last hit that you had? Like, you need this. Come on. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm mixed.
I think that I'm a mix as well, a little combination of both. I still go back and will watch the unscripted reality shows that are just here for the drama. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Like I just kind of sit back and watch it and kind of forget about the pains of my own life and live vicariously through their drama. But I do love a competition show as well. I think that all of the things that you mentioned, Project Runway, all the cooking shows,
Mhm.
those are all really fun. I love the competition aspect. I actually was almost cast on the world's what was it called? The world's worst cook, I think.
No.
I remember that show. Yeah.
A horrible cook, yeah. And so I almost got casted. Producer was talking to me, and they casted another big dude with tattoos, and I was like, that guy got my spot. I was like, that was just supposed to be me, and yeah, I almost made it on reality TV, but um yeah, that would have been amazing for me because I would have loved the competition and also be on a reality show because I've been a fan for so long.
Gabe, hold on. I need to know how, first of all, how do they pick those folks? Did you have to cook and what did you cook?
I didn't cook, so basically, I sent in a video talking about how bad a cook I am and how much I am averse to food. Like, it really grosses me out to see like uncooked chicken, and like how fearful I am of cooking chicken. Just because I feel like I'm gonna get salmonella poisoning, like regardless of how long I cook it. And then they just kind of interview you, see what you're like, and then from there they may do another video of you. They do conference calls where you're talking on Zoom and they're interviewing you, and then from there you just kind of keep going down the line until they decide whether or not to pick you. But it was because I wasn't on The Price is Right, but I attended a taping of Price is Right, and the group that cast for Price is Right also does the casting for this particular show, and that's kind of how I got the in on how to audition.
Dude, I got to hang out with you.
Right. So would you guys be on a reality show yourself?
Good question.
Mm.
Good question. And the next question, if yes, which one would you want to be on?
No.
I think, I if it was like a creative competition, like I said, like I think they did one year where like the next fashion photographer with what was his name, Russell, one of the top fashion photographers in the world. I think I do that where I guess
Yeah.
it's not just me spouting nonsense. I do enough of that here, so I don't need to go on some reality TV show to do that. But I've been watching a lot of Naked and Afraid recently.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think I could do that though.
Oh, okay. I thought he was going the other direction. Like,
No,
that's the one I want to do.
no, I don't think I could do that. That's a whole different beast there. It's but given the right show, and I think I could. I would.
Yeah.
How about you, Jen?
I don't think I would do any show that had to like dismantle relationships or like bring exes into the mix. Like, I don't need that. Like, that doesn't appeal to me. I don't need to be on I don't need a free trip to the Caribbean or wherever the hell you drop me off and then test my relationships. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm really good about that.
What
So
Jen doesn't know is we invited his exes to come and surprise him.
right.
Welcome to PopCultX.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the invite. And let me jump off of this Zoom right now. But the ones I would participate in probably would be like, I don't know, a good version of The Apprentice. Cause I think that'd be kind of fun to do like business projects and then see how you can lead teams and like work
Okay.
through business. And that'd be kind of cool. And also I like the challenge, like to be able to be challenged to do something like I have no idea how to run a restaurant. So how would I bring a team together or even like an advertising firm? That would be really cool.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. Dropping people who've never done a certain business into that mix just to see how they go about it and give them like tips from pros and whatnot. Yeah, I would love to open up a restaurant. Yeah, let's film it.
Well, sounds like a treatment to me. We need to just film it,
There you go.
produce it right now.
Let me see what other questions I could have for you guys. I mean, okay, did you answer? Would you ever want to be on a different
Well, yeah, I mean, I've auditioned a couple times now, so definitely for sure would want to be on a reality show. It doesn't matter what kind. I think that I just want to be on a show. It doesn't matter if it was drama based, if it was competition, if it was career based, whatever. I like all of them, so I would love to be on one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, do you think reality TV has influenced the mainstream culture?
I think that it has, in the sense that, so if you take a look at like when we were kind of up and coming, and when you had reality shows like the real world, or the reality shows are few and far between. That was like a goal. It was aspirational for some people to get on a reality show to have their 15 minutes of fame. But now you have kids that, because of TikTok
Yeah.
and YouTube and all the other different channels, Twitch, all the other streaming, kind of things, you get to manufacture that yourself. So you have all this whole generation of kids, multiple generations now, really, of having their 15 seconds of fame by producing their own content, by having their own shows on YouTube. And so I think that unleashed this new wave that we see of content, I guess you would call it, where people have their TikToks, and whatever form that it comes out in, they have their own reality show.
Yeah.
And so I think that came out of the original reality shows, and then they're like, well, maybe if I'm not going to get cast on a show, I can kind of do it on my own and create it on YouTube and release it. And they have, I mean, you have people that are like millionaires because of it. So I think that that's one way that it's impacted modern day culture.
Yeah, and I think about folks like the Kardashians, how they've kind of
Mhm.
morphed into something completely different. They had a traditional reality TV show, and then morphed it into something else, and now they're multimillionaires. And then you see like the Logan Pauls, like you said, Gabe, like they literally were found themselves on YouTube, and now they're multimillionaires as well. So I think that with the advent of the internet, it's allowed people to really either take advantage of the 15 minutes of fame and extend it to another audience altogether that doesn't need to be on television, right? So folks are finding, like you said, most
That's
people
true.
are
Yeah.
no longer on TV anymore.
Mhm.
They're vying for space in the interwebs or in YouTube areas, or even just independently. They're producing their stuff and loading it on their own channels. It's kind of interesting. So I guess you don't need the traditional ways anymore if you really are, dedicated and gung ho about it.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, that it's no longer just only TV only. It's people have their own channels, they have their own platforms to deliver this produced content, right? Because it is, I guess, heavily produced, edited, whatnot, to deliver the narrative that they want. So that leads me to think, though, traditional reality TV, how heavily produced by the editors and producers of those shows is it to create the narrative, or maybe even create the villain that they want the audience to see? Because we see that TikTokers, they edit their stuff. Do you think that's also done on mainstream TV?
Yeah, I think that it is. I think that one thing that happened, because that's a big question with reality content, right? Is it really real? How
Yeah,
much is it produced? Um, because there's been so many iterations of reality shows, and you get people that are cast on the show that know what they want as an end result of the show. Do they want to be famous? Do they want to be the villain? Do they
interesting.
want to be
Okay.
the good hero? So they go on and they basically play that role. Yes, it's real because they're not reading a script, but they know that they're sort of guiding themselves down a certain path, right? They know, like, okay, I'm going to be super confrontational. If someone says something to me, I'm going to be in their face. I'm not going to let anything go, because they want to be that villain.
That's
And they know
interesting.
that they can turn that into, that 15 minutes of fame into like an hour full of fame, and write a book or be. I mean, look at what happened to Omarosa. She was sort of the villain, and now she's be able to capitalize on that and has become so much more outside of that. So I think that people go in knowing what they want and sort of act in a certain way. I think producers help. They definitely like chop and dice the footage to make certain stories or plot lines. But I think that now it can't be 100% real the way that it used to be, because we've grown up so much watching reality shows that we know what's going to happen. We know that they're going to have someone that's super confrontational. We know that they're going to have someone that they're going to want to be like the nice guy. They're the innocent one, the one that doesn't know anything. So it's almost as unscripted, but still kind of scripted, if that makes sense. Like it just and so yeah, I don't think it's 100% real, but it's as real as it can be now.
Okay.
Agreed. I think that with our appetite as consumers, I think that I think people are finally hitting that ceiling, because I feel like they're all doing the same thing. There's this a need to have a villain, but I also think that there's also a need to have a hero in the same space. And I think that that provides, a lot of these folks are actors, right, already, and they're just trying to find their gig. So this is like a side thing for them or a temporary thing. I'm not saying everyone, but there's a huge group of folks who are really, trying to get their foot in the door. And this is a great opportunity. I think about what's his name, The Miz, who's now a wrestler and he used to
Yeah.
be in a reality TV show, and now he's like one of the biggest wrestling stars on the planet. And then you think about folks who you meet them in person and they're completely different. Or they, like you said, Gabe, they put out like, oh, I was just acting for this because the producers wanted me to, pretend that I was a bridezilla, right? And then you find out that they're not. Like you know who they are as a personality because they actually have their connection in IG, and or maybe they're DJs, and
Mm.
then they get this show and they're like, oh, I have to be extra. I have to make sure that I get maybe a second season, or maybe they bring me back for something else. And so that's how that works. Like you said, I'm not putting my traditional hat anymore on because those days are over. But for the most part, most of it has to be scripted.
Yeah.
Has there been any shows recently that have really like not blown your mind, but that were just unique in the reality TV space?
Well, I don't know about how unique it is, but I've talked about the traders on the podcast before, and thing that I really liked about it is that they bring sort of all stars from all different types of reality shows and have them compete on the show. So it's sort of like the Olympics for reality show contestants or personalities, and you get people that have been on like the Real Housewives franchise mixed with people that do the MTV challenge. So it's someone who's like more athletic, and then you have someone that is an actor or an actress, and so it's a little bit more interesting because you get a mix of their personalities, and it's fun to watch them in a competition. It sort of reminds me of the cartoon Olympics that they used to have when we were growing up, where they would bring all the cartoons together and they would it was like an Olympic style cartoon.
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me of that. And so that's why I like the traders, is that they bring a whole bunch of personalities from different reality shows and have them go at it, and see what happens. And so that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that really stands out for me, per se, because like I said, I feel like they're replicants of each other or some type
Yeah.
of variant.
Yeah.
Again, not to go into comic books, but I think it's interesting. There's a few, one of the things that really my wife put me on to because she's a big fan is RuPaul's Drag Race, which it I did not know anything about drag culture. I didn't know anything about LGBTQ specifically around this arena. I work in diversity education, but it was really interesting to see RuPaul as a judge and also as a performer, and then also kind of coaching people. And
Yeah.
it was different. And you know, I think we binge watched like a couple of seasons. But even that reality is, I think, nuanced too, you know, and there's a specific audience or an allied audience that people are just like, wow, this is really cool. This is different. And then, you know, other shows that really, I think that are out there, I kind of miss. I don't know if you remember when they used to drop people off in like haunted houses or like
Yeah. Oh,
insane
yeah.
asylums. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I want to do that so bad, but I don't want to bring a ghost home with me or a poltergeist. Like, I don't want to risk that. So I always thought to myself, like, oh man, they need to bring some of those shows back.
That's
And
fun.
even
Yeah.
those prank shows, you know, I don't know if you remember those prank shows.
Oh,
I hadn't realized that a lot of them got sued by folks who didn't want that to happen to them. And so, you know, I actually put in a treatment and I was going to prank my friend. It was such a severe prank. It was, I knew it wouldn't make it to the television, but I think to myself, that's great reality TV show, you know?
yeah.
I wanted to bring my friend to a gas station, pump up, and then have it held up, and then them take her like
Oh,
hostage.
goodness.
Yeah. So that's when I knew that wasn't made for me. I probably would have given her a heart attack,
Yeah.
but it would have been good TV. It would have been real. So
There you go. I think one of the shows that was recently that really stood out to me for that way was I think it's called Jury Duty,
Oh yeah.
with James
oh, that was
Marsden,
good.
and they had one person in there who wasn't an actor. I think his name was like Ronald something, and he was just a normal guy who thought he was getting called in for jury duty, but everyone else was actors, and I thought that was really well done because he didn't catch on to it till the very end when they told him, and I don't know if that's just him wanting to believe what's going on or just him not just being oblivious to it. I don't know, but I thought that was really fun, and I'm glad that he got like some sort of like agent out of it, and maybe even a contract for more shows.
Yeah.
Have you seen the tattoo ones? I don't
Yes.
know.
I love the tattoo ones.
Yeah, yeah. Those are scary to me. Like, there's no way I'm gonna be anybody's canvas, especially if like I don't get to pick who it is. No, no way.
Yeah. Yeah. That is God, what is the name of the show that where they have the ink competition and they get volunteers and they sight unseen get tattoos by the artist. But I used to really love like the old school like LA Ink and Miami Ink,
Oh
where it was
yeah.
just like the drama of tattoo artists doing their thing, and you would see their clients and them tell their stories of why they want to get those tattoos. I always thought that was really interesting, and you had like Kat Von D came out of that and became like a huge household name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I would not. That's one reality show where I would have second thoughts. I'm like, I'm not getting a tattoo by someone who is not that great, and I don't know. And actually, I forgot one of the girls that did one of my tattoos was on the show. Her name was Heather, and she was not good on the show. And she was a crybaby. She cried on the show like multiple times, and for having to do tattoos that she wasn't comfortable doing. And her name was Heather Sin, and she was on. I can't think of the name of the show. I don't know why it's like drawing a blank, but she was on it, and she did one of my first tattoos.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, so 6 degrees of separation from my reality show people.
there you
You're a
go.
brave soul, brave man.
That's funny.
So you're not gonna show us the tattoo, huh?
Oh yeah, it's
Oh,
it's uh, it's this one right here. It's just a Tibetan Buddhist prayer.
oh, cool.
It's just this black thing right here. So it's pretty simple. But she did a good job on me. But when she was on the show, they kind of pushed her to her limits of like what she was comfortable with doing and what she had to do for the show, and so she cried a lot, which was
Um,
unfortunate.
yeah.
Made for good reality TV though. So
I think there are so many different genres now of reality TV. And with now all the streaming services out there and them producing their own reality TV, do we think that we might ever hit like a ceiling of like that's enough too much and then reality TV will start to fade away, or is reality TV going to be here for the foreseeable future?
Well, I mean, when you have examples like the Kardashians, I'm definitely like at my like top. Like I can't take any more of Kardashians or Jenners or any of their clan. I can't do it anymore. I was never a big fan. I never really watched the show, but they're the one example of like a reality show that I just can't get into. I do think that it is starting to have like sort of a decline in popularity. But I think that there will always be some sort of reality show. There's going to be if there's cameras and there's people, there's always going to be some sort of reality. And the original reality shows are just documentaries, right? Like
Yeah.
so there's always going to be documentaries because they're always going to have people that have interesting stories that are want to be told and you want to hear. And so I think that there's always going to be some sort of reality programming out there. But I definitely think that it's not going to be every show the way it was at one point, especially during COVID when or not COVID, but the writer's strike, when there was a lot of reality shows just being like spun out and being created, and we're not at that point anymore. I think they're sort of on the decline.
And I think there's a season. I mean, that's the formula, right? So the summertime is when they actually do all those reality TV shows, and you'll get all the seasons, unless you're on like the We TV network, which is like 24/7 reality TV show. I don't even know if Lifetime does it, but I'm sure they have something on that channel. But I think, to some degree, I also think that they've also reached back to like, I even think sometimes game shows can be pulled into that mix as well. They're recycling a lot of old 1950s and 60s shows, and you're just like, oh, okay. They're doing like Name That Tune. And so you get the same formula of like the backstory behind this contestant, or the money situation of this folks, right? Like, so it becomes overly dramatic where, someone's had either a catastrophic thing happen, they're on TV competing for some money, and everything is determined by their family's decision on the show, right? And what ball falls down in what jackpot, those things. So it's a really interesting dynamic. Like you said, the genre has shifted and changed so many times, but I think it's here to stay. I think as long as you have folks who just want to be not deal with real life. And, and especially around this season, we've got politics happening around us. We had COVID. It's just some things that you don't want to deal with. And TV is one of those things that's always in your face and it's entertaining. And so you just need something mind numbing. So yeah.
It's like more like an escape than anything else. And it's also a way, I guess, of seeing, like, I like to watch the show The Hoarders. So like, wow. So I don't want to say I want to watch people whose lives are more messed up than mine. That's not it. But I know there are people out there who will watch reality TV just for that, I'm sure. But just seeing that, I mean, maybe that's my guilty pleasure. It's like a train wreck that you can't look away from. And that show Hoarders for me is that, because it's like, oh man, that's just complete. How could you live like that? And I just, but I can't turn it. I just keep watching it. So
God, I'm glad I have my background blurred because, like I told you before, my comic books are all over the place. So you might call some folks to come and do an intervention. So, I'm glad we just met and we're becoming good colleagues and friends. But don't call anybody. It's not.
Okay.
It's just a habit. Yeah. No, I actually, my wife, for whatever reason, she's a runner, and she will we'll be eating dinner, and she puts on 700-pound Life or something. And I'm like, come on, like we're eating pizza on a Friday. Like, what are you saying about me? Are you trying to tell me I have to lose weight? Is this an intervention as well? Like, it's crazy. So those shows, I don't, yeah, I'm like you, Danny. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to sit in those and be like, yeah, I feel bad for them, but how did you live like this? How'd you let yourself go? Things like that. I will say one of the guilty pleasure that I'm hoping and crossing my fingers for are the chiropractor ones. I've seen Crack Addict, which is a favorite of mine. It is so freaking cool. They only have like 3 episodes though. So, but I'll rewatch those suckers because
that's
they're so
chiropractors
funny.
scare me. That's just like one thing just terrifies me. One wrong slip and just like, that's it, you're done.
Well, as someone who I love chiropractors,
Okay.
it has completely changed my life. So yes, I agree with you. As somebody who wants to snap my neck, that's not fun. But the other stuff is really cool. So you definitely should try at least for a week, 2 weeks.
Interesting. Okay.
It actually is life changing. So when I saw Crack Addict, I was like, yes, I agree. Yeah, people with scoliosis coming out of there, pop locking, and I was like, what is happening? I never saw that in the doctor's office, but it was
Yeah.
cool.
Very cool. What about
You
you,
just have to
Gabe?
be careful when you tell people what you're watching, and you're like, "I'm watching Crack Addict. It's my favorite show." You're like,
Yeah,
"What?"
yeah. Oh God, you know what was that show? The addiction show. What was it
My
called?
Strange
My
Addiction?
Strange Addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, My Strange Addiction or Intervention.
Yeah, oh,
That was the
yeah.
Intervention
other
was one.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I think that there's a certain aspect of it that is sort of like train wreckish,
Mhm.
but when it comes down to it, I think that what really attracts me to reality shows is just the human aspect to it. I think people in general are just really interesting, and I like hearing their stories, whether it be, drug addiction or, we mentioned like 700-pound life or like little people. It's just like there's so many different people that have interesting lives that it draws you in. At least for me, I can speak for myself. It draws me into watching their life because it's just so fascinating that, you know, um, people could have such a vastly different life, but then you have things that are like common and you're like, oh yeah, like that, I do that. And then maybe they're not so different from me. But
Mhm.
then on the flip side, you're like, oh my God, that person lives a totally different life than I do. And like, how interesting is that? So that's what I love about reality shows is the human element to it that just makes it really fascinating.
What I think it boils down to then is that we all are a little bit voyeuristic.
Yeah, for
We want
sure.
to see peek into the window of how other people live their lives so we can compare and see what we have in common and see, oh, I didn't know that life was could be like that, which is
Yeah.
cool. And it is really a human element to it. Absolutely. So, as we wrap up this discussion, I have one last question for each of you. And that is if you were given a blank check by some company to produce your own reality TV show, what would it be and who would you market it to?
Wow, that's a tough one.
I would have a show based on a photography competition because I like you, Danny, was a fan of America's Next Top Model, and they never gave the photographer enough credit. They
Right.
always said, oh, that was a great job, model. Like you did an amazing job. This photo looks amazing. And it's like, what about the photographer who like completely created that image? Or vice versa, they would blame the model and say, oh, you did a horrible job. And it's like, well, actually, the photographer sucked. So I would, if I had money, I would have a photography show similar to Project Runway or America's Next Top Model, where you have photographers come in, you give them, a handful of models and say, this is your challenge this week. You need to do, cover of Vogue. Here's an outfit. You need to make it look cool. Here's all the equipment that you need. Let's see what each one of you guys can come up with. And you can partner with, makeup artists, hairdressers, stylists, and all of that. And see what they're able to come up with. Because that's something that we haven't seen. We've seen designers, we've seen models, we've seen
Makeup
uh,
artist. Yeah.
stylists, makeup artists, hairstylists, but we haven't seen anyone from the photographer point of view. And because I'm a photographer, obviously that would interest me. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Hmm.
I'm ready, Gabe. I'll win. No,
They're listening.
they're
You'll
listening.
you'll you'll get a call tomorrow, bro.
What about you, Jen?
Um,
Anything?
yeah, I would do. It probably wouldn't last long because I think people are just the consumers of like tragedy and like the things that are make them probably the worst parts of humanity. But I probably would do a show called Do Good and do a hidden camera show that really highlights people actually making a difference in like their communities
That's cool.
and and then kind of just have it kind of as a documentary, but not necessarily that. And it's actually, giving money to their charity or their cause to kind of see what happens. And then if it does well, nationally, do an international one and then, make it global.
There you
So
go.
there we
Nice.
go. So that could, it could tap into a lot of stuff like building houses for folks who are in need, homeless folks, and in a good way, right? Like not to sensationalize it, but
Yeah.
just to say, great job, keep doing what you're doing, rather than like objectifying folks and like making it about something else, you know. But that'd be a cool show. I think that would be a really cool difference, a game changer. I don't think anything out there is like that. So yeah, that's what I would create. You gave me a blank check.
Nice.
Very cool. Very cool. I think for myself, it'd be a show about entrepreneurs and maybe helping them discover what they're truly passionate about, and then helping them, like I said, with the whole restaurant thing, guide them into what they need to do. And each episode could be about a different person trying to find their passion, what it may be. And maybe they don't even know what their passion is. Maybe they think it's one thing, but talking to a professional or someone who can a mentor, they realize, oh, it's actually this. And then they go down that new path, and we get to see them blossom and bloom. I think that'd be really fun to watch.
Oh,
I feel like we're his guinea pigs. Are you doing that with us right
I
now?
am. I'm trying. Well, that's very cool, you guys. Thank you so much for indulging in my topic du jour, the real in reality TV. We covered a lot of ground here today. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is Danny along with Jen and Gabe. And any parting thoughts you guys might have before we head out for this episode?
No, just stay safe, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and put in the comments what shows you're watching, because I think I would like to see what people are doing, watching, and or maybe the projects that you would like to see in the future. You never know. We might be execs in the board. It might be, the three of us making those decisions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The wheels are turning. All right, everyone, do as Jen said. Let us know what you want, what you were watching, or what you would want to see. And who knows? So take care, everyone, and we will see you guys all next time.
Peace.
See ya.